Welcome to Sports Lab Overtime. I'm Justin Baxley, joined by Isaac Edelman. Isaac, it's been a little while since we've hopped in here and talked, maybe during football season. I think we talked about your relationship with Florida Victorious, but a lot has happened since then. You've become a viral sensation through the Drop the Maybe Cuz in the intro presser for Jon Sumrall. I got the shirt to prove it, and you got the retweet and the follow the other night. How has that been for you over the last few months? I mean, obviously you've been doing this journalism thing for a while. What's that been like, having that interaction with a brand new head coach on the football side of things?
Look, you got to know what you're getting into when you do sports media, when you want to do sports media, and I feel like specifically that interaction with Jon Sumrall at the introductory press conference beat any other interaction because it was the first time Jon Sumrall spoke to the media after being named the Florida Gators' new football coach, and the room was full. Not just full of media, but there were guys like Steve Spurrier and Urban Meyer in the room. So also, because it was an introductory press conference, they want all the media to say their name and affiliation. So it was the worst timing to mess up, but you got to own your mistake, and you could capitalize off of it, and I think that's what I've done.
Yeah, I would say that, in terms of owning it, I don't think you could have owned it any better than you have. You've obviously made kind of jokes, made light of it, and I think you understand that the bigger lesson there was, look, you're in the room for a reason. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that, is that you're in the room for a reason. You don't have to show off that you're the smartest guy in the room by remembering dates or anything, because you can get tripped up on that. But I thought you handled it well, and I thought you kind of won the press conference in a lot of ways for Jon Sumrall, because we got to see a very authentic side of him. It wasn't, you get a lot of buttoned-up press conferences. Look, the same week, we got a very awkward press conference from the new LSU head coach in Lane Kiffin, and talking about people were trying to run him off the road at Ole Miss, and it was just very awkward. Instead, what we got, in a lot of ways because of you, we got a very authentic, fun Jon Sumrall.
I wanted him, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with me, to be himself. He shouldn't have to not say something because this reporter may get their feelings hurt, right? Especially somebody as young as me. And he saw me. He knew I was young. And I love that. I'm a personality guy. Some people, especially student journalists here at the University of Florida, that might have, and I'm going to go as extreme as this, maybe knock them out of the business, say, you know what, I'm going to let one mistake derail, my aspirations. But no, I'm not that way. And I'm actually a personality guy, so I kind of appreciated the fact that he said what he wanted to say, and he didn't have to worry about what other people thought of him. Absolutely.
Speaking of personality guys, there's another big personality guy, in my opinion, and you see it come out during games, and that's Todd Golden. Todd and Jon have seemed to have built a little bit of a friendship very quickly here. You've seen him on the sidelines at the last couple basketball games. Isaac, what's been your take on how quickly Jon Sumrall has kind of like built that relationship, started going to the games, handing out pizzas? What does that signal for you as a fan? I mean, you're a fan of the team, and you obviously want to see good things happen. You go to school here. What has that been like, seeing Jon kind of get more involved immediately, maybe more so than we saw from the previous group the entire time?
We're months away from the college football season, right? So what Sumrall does from now to then, he's got to win them over. And he already won the press conference, right? We talked about that, and I guess maybe you could argue that, hey, I helped him in some way. But what else is he doing? He's going on all of these recruiting trips, but when he's in Gainesville, he is making the time to not necessarily interact with the public, but have fun while technically working. He's going to a Gator basketball game. He's enjoying watching the Gator boys, but at the same time, it's marketing. Having him at the Gators basketball game, first of all, shows one thing, that the athletic department is together, that basketball supports football, football supports basketball. But what else is it doing? It's about social media, and the Gators creative staff is doing a terrific job. They're not just having Sumrall go to the game, they're videoing him. And they're recording authentic reactions. Sumrall going crazy when Thomas Houck makes a three, hugging Todd Golden after a win. And that's all true reaction. Yes, sometimes it's fake, right? You just want to boost, it's a marketing stunt, right? Marketing campaign. But no, it's all authentic. And the best way to describe Jon Sumrall is he still thinks he's playing football. He acts like he is on the team, but he's the head coach.
Yeah, I think that you see a lot of the energy, right? And I think it's about getting buy-in, not just from the players, right? You got to get buy-in from the community. You got to get, especially in today's world, right? NIL is such a big deal. And I mean, I think you probably know this, maybe it's better than some. Uh, Everything is about this Florida Victoria stuff now, right? Like everybody is donating money. I see Nick posting all the time for the goalpost. And there's the new batch bourbon or whatever. There's always something, right? And a big part of that is getting buy-in from your community and buy-in from boosters and buy-in from fans. And in my opinion, how you win the off season, how you win the lead up to next season is doing things like this, showing face, showing you care, getting people excited. Because look, I don't think it's a secret. He even said it in the introductory press conference, Isaac. He knows that he wasn't the first choice by most of the fan base. He knows Lane Kiffin was the guy that everybody wanted for the job. And a lot of people, when they didn't get Lane Kiffin, basically said, look, we're out. I don't want to donate money to this program. I'm done. John's like a expert fisherman right now. He's trying to reel him back in. And I think he's doing a really excellent job of that. And I think Todd Golden embracing him on the sidelines, doing all that, like he says, marketing. Having him sit next to Todd Golden is not a mistake. That's a planned thing. They want you as a fan base to be able to see your two coaches. I was talking to Rob Russo, one of your fellow INCers. He made a good point that in some of Florida's best times, and you can probably speak to this as much as I can, Billy Donovan and Urban Meyer had this place rocking. I mean, there's something where you can feed off of the other sports.
Totally. I mean, especially an SEC school like the Florida Gators, where, you know, the softball team's going to be top 10, the baseball team is supposed to be ranked high, the track and field team and swimming team is supposed to be top 10 as well.
Tennis.
Like, you are supposed to support the other programs, no matter how good they are. But the good thing is, it's easier at a school like the University of Florida because everybody is having so much success. Obviously, the two main sports, football and basketball. But you're right. The timing of Sumrall coming in right after the Gators won the national championship in basketball, not football. And obviously, you're not going to get a new coach after you win a national championship in football. So here's where you brought in Florida Victorious, and it was a great point, Justin. Not every fan is going to want to donate money and buy in until they see the product on the football field, right? And that's why Sumrall is doing as much as he can, because the Gators can't get any wins right now, right? The season hasn't started. But they can get wins in recruiting, and he's absolutely done that. And they can get wins in the transfer portal, right? Bringing in guys like Micah Mays and keeping guys like Dallas Wilson and Jaden Baugh that most fans said, we're not keeping them, right? And Sumrall proved them wrong.
Not only that, Isaac, but you had actual reporters from Texas. These are actual trusted sources within the Texas community saying Jaden Baugh and Dallas Wilson were gone. That they were, and who was the other one? Was it Jaden Woods? Yeah. That all these players were gone, and that Texas was probably going to get a bunch of them. I saw a thing yesterday from Paul Feinbaum he put out because Lane Kiffin got upset about it. That if Lane Kiffin is the king of the portal, then Steve Sarkisian is the prince of the portal. And so you're getting to me, those wins in keeping those guys, that's like getting a 5-star to commit to you, right? Like that's all over again.
Yeah.
To me, Florida's portal class doesn't look as strong as the LSU's or the Texas's, right? But I would argue that it's just as good when you factor in Vernell Brown, you factor in Dallas Wilson, you factor in Jaden Baugh, Woods, Miles Graham, all those guys that every program in the country, don't tell me they weren't, every program in the country was trying to tamper and get those kids to come play for them. I genuinely believe that there were very few programs that wouldn't have said, I'll take any of those 5 guys on my team today over whoever's on our roster. There are probably 4 programs in the country that wouldn't start Jaden Baugh at running back next year because they've already got a guy.
Yeah.
Outside of those 3 or 4 programs, it doesn't exist.
And by the way, Dallas Wilson is, and you brought up the point about, like, it's the transfer portal, but it's kind of like getting commits all over again. Dallas Wilson is literally a freshman, right? Because he redshirted.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think there's going to be a receiver in college football as a freshman next year that's as dangerous as Dallas Wilson. And, that is one of the benefits of him redshirting, right? He could have finished off the season, but he decided to go the route of let's play it safe and let me be fully healthy for next season. And he stopped at that 4-game mark where he could redshirt and preserve another year of college football.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, you look at it, we talked about the last few years, these freshman receivers that have kind of come on, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams. These are big-name guys, right? Florida had 2 of those guys this year, and one of them got to preserve it. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of that. To switch gears real quick, this basketball team, that's the other one that, you start to see the talent. When we talk about the portal, I think for most of this season so far, you would say that the Florida Gators struck out in the portal in a lot of ways in basketball. So everything that happened good on the football side, retaining players and all that, I think the flip side you could argue for the basketball team, losing Denzel Aberdeen and then turning around and getting Boogie Flan and Xavier Lee, and they haven't necessarily lived up to expectations. That's not necessarily a hot take. I mean, I think you could argue it's just factual, right? They haven't lived up to what we thought they were. Some of that is not their fault, by the way. You lost 3 NBA guards, right? Walter Clayton just got traded over to the Memphis Grizzlies today, and then you've got the other 2 in Will Richard and Elijah Martin, who are one's going to the Rising Star game, and one I looked up the other day. If you do the valuation thing, he's one of the most valuable players based on his contract in the entire NBA right now is Will Richard. And so you've lost those 3 pieces. Xavier Lee comes out, and he's even said it. Like, he's shooting worse now on easier shots than he did at Princeton when it was harder shots. You've got Boogie, who's struggling with his shot, can't get it to fall, and they're good looks. That's the frustrating part, Isaac, is I've watched this team all season and been like, if there was a team to ever get great looks, and a lot of that starts the front court, right? You have to commit to stopping the front court so much that your guards do get better shots. They just aren't falling. And so we're at the midway point. We've seen enough of this team now. We think we pretty much know what they are. With that in mind, Isaac, what's the ceiling for this team?
Look, the ceiling is national championship, right? And
wow, so you still think they can win a national championship with this group?
Oh, absolutely. When it has all come together, and I think there was only one game where it did, and that was South Carolina, and I get it. South Carolina is not the best team in the SEC. Matter of fact, they're one of the worst, right? Them in Oklahoma. But Todd Golden keeps on saying it time and time again in his press conferences. Imagine if the Gators just shoot a little bit better from 3. Just a little bit. Obviously, we'd love a lot, but just a little bit. The Gators have won some big SEC games, like Vanderbilt on the road, like Alabama at home, like Tennessee at home, and they still didn't shoot that good from 3. And again, we haven't seen a game where like Boogie Flan and Xavier Lee have both been good at the same time. And Condon, right? Condon had 1 point a few games ago. And then he scores 20-plus against Bama. It's inconsistency. Now, we can't all hope for all of these players to be good at once. That's what happened with the Gators last year in March Madness. Will Richard, Walter Clayton, and Elijah Martin were all on at once. And Hauk, Janiello, and Condon were not bad. I say ceiling because ceiling is if this team is playing its best basketball, that's their ceiling. If all 5 of their starters are playing well, and I don't think it's crazy. I think it's just a matter of they got to do it all at once. And I get it. We're already halfway through SEC play, but I still think there's still some things that they're working out.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not easy to have 2 point guards splitting reps, right? Xavier Lee and Boogie Flan. And Xavier Lee now lately has been being sent to the bench way longer than Boogie Flan. And I get it because Boogie Flan's the better defensive player. He's more valuable on the floor. But the people saying that Urban Clavzar needs to be a starter over Lee, they're out of their mind because Clavzar's role is perfected as the 6th man. And Xavier Lee, like you said, is getting fantastic looks. He said when he was going through the worst slump of his career earlier in the season, he said, he didn't know what's going on. It's not like his shot felt off. The shot just wasn't going through the hoop.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Yeah, I think so. Here's where I agree that if they all five play in cohesion and you've got a couple bench players that are playing well, the ceiling is absolutely a national championship. However, I'd really just like to see evidence of that before I commit to that being their ceiling, if that makes sense. And so far this season, Isaac, I just don't know that we've seen the evidence of all of those guys playing in unison, right? Like if it's, you look at the Alabama game, which I think maybe is the closest to them playing in unison. Boogie's defense was the biggest, to me, was the biggest revelation in that game. 8 steals. And we almost saw a triple-double with steals as the third stat.
Yeah.
To me, that's incredible. You look at Alex Condon played like Alex Condon that we thought we were getting when he was a second-team preseason All-American.
Yeah.
Tommy is Tommy, and Tommy's going to continue to do Tommy things.
Tommy is one of the most consistent players in the whole country, and that's what keeps the Gators in these games.
I mean, he's a lottery pick, right? Like, he's going to be an NBA lottery pick, in my opinion, or at least he's played his way into that. And I think Ruben Chinyelu is slowly creeping up some of those draft boards, too, because he may end up being the defensive player of the year in all of college basketball. And watching him clamp down not one but 2 Alabama players the other day in one possession and getting that shot clock turnover was massive, because you just don't see a big man that can defend in that way. And so I've been really impressed with him. And I'll say this, he's completely changed my thoughts on him, because that first game, he was airballing layups. I was just so confused as to who this guy was, because I followed Florida last year because they played in the tournament, but I didn't know the team inside and out the way that you and some of the folks that I've talked to around here since I got here. And so seeing him in that first game against Koa Pete and watching Arizona just wreck them even down low, I was like, man, this guy, we got to get this guy off the court. What is happening? Now I'm like, oh, this dude is a baller. He may be the best defensive player in the country. He is, to me, he's the glue and the linchpin of this team, because you're going to get what you're going to get from Tommy. And you're going to get what you get from, right now, you're getting what you get from Boogie and Xavier. You just have to accept it. Ruben is the difference. He's the X factor. Maybe the glue guy maybe is Alex Condon, because if he doesn't start playing well, the ceiling for me is probably Elite 8.
Bang. And that's exactly what I wanted to say, that Condon might be the most important piece for the Gators to get to that ceiling that I talked about, the national championship, right? Make it far in March Madness. And it's because of this reason. Micah Hanlockton isn't, I'm trying to put it nicely, like, he doesn't produce much off the bench as the Gators back a big man. And so I think Condon played 37 minutes. The game he scored just 1 point, and people are like, why are they keeping him in? Because they need him in. And I think everybody just looks at the stats, and Golden keeps saying it, even when Condon doesn't have good performances in terms of points, he is affecting the game, right? People are not driving through the lane, and there's no stat that keeps that. They're not going to test Condon in the water. So anyway, because Hanlockton doesn't produce much off the bench, Condon is so vital, even if he's having a bad game, in terms of they need him on the court, right?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Look, I think for me, Alex Condon is the guy that you've got to get him to a certain level, and he's got to stay there. He's got to stay consistent. Your word is consistent. I like that word. I think that's the word for me, that Alex Condon has to be consistent throughout the tournament. Boogie, Flynn, and Xavier just have to hit some threes.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, and this is in March, three-point shooting is even more important. That's where upsets happen, right?
Yes.
For the most part, you get beat because you can't hit the 3-ball, or the 3-ball's falling for the underdog. That's where I worry about Florida, but I don't know that we've ever seen a front court that neutralizes the lack of a 3-ball quite as well as Florida does right now. I mean, you go back, even though some of those Kentucky teams that had the big men were the focal points, they could still hit the 3-ball. This feels a lot more like you would have to have a pretty special front court to neutralize this Florida front court enough that the 3-point shooting just has to work in order for them to even have a chance to win the game. There are a couple front courts around the country that you can look at. I think I think co-compete. Now Arizona is probably one of them.
I think that what could put and separate the Gators apart come March Madness is Todd Golden, because the Gators, I'm not just talking about in the tournament last year, I'm talking about even this season, they just have so much going on in the first half, right? They're usually going into the locker room down by a few points, and yet they come out in the second half on fire, and that's all because of Todd Golden. Now, you don't have somebody that's going to save you like Walter Clayton last year, and I get it. That is the concern. But you can't live life talking about the past, especially in college basketball where players are graduating and going to the NBA draft or transferring, right? So last year's last year, and people still this deep into the season are talking about last year. And I get it. Like, in 100 years, we're going to be talking about this 2025 Florida Gators national championship basketball team. And I love it. I'm a Gator, right? I come here. I want that to happen. But there's no Walter Clayton anymore. Reality has hit. But you're right. The front court neutralizes the bad shooting. But it's hard for the Gators to shoot much worse. Right? Like, they've had so many bad shooting performances, and they still win. And that's why, like, Urban Clavsar is another guy that's so vital, because he just has to come off the bench and make 3 threes. And the Gators' three-point percentage skyrockets. It's so funny that we rely on Thomas Houck, a big man technically, to shoot the high percentage threes he makes. But he is one of the most consistent players in all of college basketball. Really, he is.
I will say, I think for the Gators, the good thing is you don't have a guy like, I know it sounds crazy. It's almost a good thing you don't have a guy like Walt this year, because defenses can't just key on one guy. You've got to stop everybody on this team. Because if Ruben Chinyelu goes for 20 and 20, you've probably lost the game.
Yeah.
If Alex Condon drops 20 on you, you probably lost the game, because you know Tommy's giving you 20. You know that you're getting at least something from the guards, and you're getting something from Herb off the bench. So, in my opinion, Isaac, I'm with you. I think the ceiling, if everything hits, is probably the national championship. However, I just need to see the evidence.
Yeah.
I want to know that they can do it. For right now, I'm probably more comfortable saying the ceiling's in that Elite 8 range or Final 4 range. But I also think the floor is probably Sweet 16. Like, is that crazy to say?
You know, it's not crazy to say. I think the Florida Gators always out-rebound teams, and that's why they don't lose a lot. That's how they dug themselves in a hole at home to Auburn, because in the first half, they got out-rebounded, and they tried to make a comeback in the second half. They went on a crazy run, but it wasn't enough. The Gators' strength is their front court, especially their rebounding. The Gators lead the country in rebounds. They lead the country in offensive rebounds as well, and they cannot get out-rebounded because, again, the rebounding, the front court, makes up for the bad shooting. So if the Gators are to get out-rebounded, which could happen, right? Like, there's the Petes, there's the Boozers, right? It's possible, but the Gators should win it. But as you know, upsets happen in March Madness. You could consider it an upset if the Gators get out-rebounded in a game. Yeah, and so the Gators have to stay true to their roots. I think Todd Golden knows that Xavier Lee and Boogie Flynn are not going to shoot the ball well every night, but they're going to try. And if they fail, a guy like Ruben Chinyelu, the best defender in college basketball, is going to save the day. He's a double-double machine. But that's not enough. And that's why a guy like Thomas Houck, one of the biggest stars in college basketball, is also there to save the day. But in the end of the day, it comes down to coaching, right? In the play sets. The Gators do not have a guy in the clutch to make a shot like they did last year at Walter Clayton. That's why Xavier Lee's crazy step-back three against Vanderbilt on the road was so crazy.
It gives you some hope.
You can't expect that to happen every game. So anyway, it's you know, March is almost here, and the Gators still have time, right? They still have time. But right now, the only thing they can't change, unlike Alabama with a guy that I don't want to mention, you can't change your roster now. So they just got to figure out what they have.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you can bring back Al Horford and see if he can add to his double-double totals. But, Isaac, I appreciate you hopping on here. Look, I'm a big fan of March Madness, so we'll definitely have you back. I was a part of the Mercer. I got to be a part of the Mercer experience when they upset Duke. And so I've got a soft spot in my heart for March Madness in general. And so it's always good to be able to talk with you about college hoops, and we'll definitely get you back in here the closer we get to March. I'm ready to see, can Isaac Edelman, did he correctly predict the Florida Gators ceiling? Time will tell. Time will tell, man.
I know. Thanks so much, Justin. Yeah, March Madness, the best time of the year.